All right, students, this is a tutorial on um, creating titles for your own titles and using a template as well. So what we're doing is if we have a television show that we produce every week or we're editing every week, the name of our show in this case is going to be The Dead Sea. Not a lovely name for a series, but that's our name. So we don't want to have to create the title of the Dead Sea every week. So we create that as a template. And we can pull that up every week and just slap it onto our background. And then our stars will change, or our guest stars may change every week. So we need to be able to make those different every week. So we've got two parts here. One that has to be pre-made and preset, and then one that we have to create on our own every week. So this is how that's what we're gonna do today, is we're gonna look at how we actually start to create that. So the first thing we're gonna do is open a new title box. You can go to File, New, Title, Command T, or you can just simply do Command T and you get this. All right, so we're gonna call this The Dead Sea, okay? And this is already preset to what this timeline is. So that's okay. We click OK. Now we get this thing. I'm going to move this over. I'm going to make mine a little larger so you can see it. I don't want to see this background while I'm creating titles. It's going to be confusing. So I'm going to go up here to this little eye and I'm going to click that, and it turns this into an alpha file. And an alpha file is a file that the computer reads black pixels as transparent or see-through. It reads white pixels as opaque, that it can't see through, and any gradation of gray between that black and white determines the opacity of that particular pixel. We're choosing this to be a checkerboard because if we chose it to be a black background and I'm using black text, I wouldn't be able to see my text. If I chose white and as my background for the alpha file, and I was using white titles, white text, I would be able to see it. So the gray is the happy medium. So that's why we're choosing this gray text. Now, in the templates dialog box up here, we have a lot. You can choose to show your tools and things of that nature. I have my tools over here and all of that. So we're going to import this the Dead Sea that we've already created. So we're going to go to the title drop down menu, new tile. We're going to do based on template, right? And we have the Dead Sea. I have mine as the Dead Sea 3 and the Dead Sea. I've done this before. Otherwise, you would trace this back to where your template is. And let me give you an example of that. I would go to Finder. In my movies file are all of my lessons for 2017 Premiere Pro, right? In my assets, in my video files, audio files, I have titles, and there's my Dead Sea right there, and I would select that and import that. So you would put it wherever you want it. So here's my Dead Sea. I've already got that created. I click OK. I'm going to call it The Dead Sea. And let's call this 6, for instance, just to give it a number. There it is. Now, up here in your tool palette, make sure that your selection tool is selected. So when you click on the Dead Sea, you get what we call a bounding box. B-O-U-N-D, bounding. It means that you can drag any one of these little squares and the title will automatically increase or decrease just proportionally around whatever anchor point is there. So I want you to make it a little bit bigger, right? You can also hover your mouse over one of these squares and it'll turn to this little hooked arrow, and that'll allow you to rotate it. So I want you to make it a little bit bigger and rotate it, and then click in the middle and it will move and your bounding box will follow it. So I want you to place it somewhere over here where the top of the T and the top of the A are almost but not quite touching the title safe area that we talked about in a previous tutorial. So there's that. Now I need to make my co-stars, right? So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to select a um, a box for typing in my title. So I select that, and I'm just going to left click, and I'm going to draw a nice big box, right? So right up here, I'm going to start typing my names. So the first one, let's say, is George, and I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to hit Shift Return to go to another line, and then there would be Elaine, and then Shift Return. I need to make my bounding box a little bit bigger here so I can see. I can get to Elaine. I want to make this. There we go. And would be Jim. All right. So with my selection tool created, I can then make that small. But if I do that, they start to disappear. So what I have to do first, excuse me, select your text tool. So make sure you select all of those and go over here to your font size. Mine's at 112 right now. I'm going to reduce that down to something manageable. All right, and I'm going to put it at 55. Then I can go back with my selection tool, make that box small enough that they can all be seen, and I can put it wherever I want it to inside my title safe zone. All right, now I'm going to start coloring these, so I want to see my background again. So I'll go up here to this little eye, click the eye, there's my dead C. I want to color this. Select your text tool. Make sure that you select all of these words, the dead C. And over here in properties, you'll see the color, fill type, it's solid. The color is white, but I can double click this and go to the spectrum and select the color, or I can click on the eyedropper, which I'm going to do now, and I'm going to try and find something over here in the rocks to blend this title with these rocks. So the lighter color really doesn't work for me. The darker color is too dark. It doesn't have any real color or depth to it. So if I go over here and pick something kind of in between, I can select that, and you notice that the little square has changed. If you want to adjust that, double click that. That circle is the color that you just selected. I'm going to make this a little bit darker, and you can see the color change in the top half of this up here. The bottom half was your before color, and that's your after color, and I like that. I click that one and go OK, and it darkens it a little bit. All right, close up my strokes. I've got a drop shadow on it already. My angle is fine. My distance is at 4.7, and I'm going to put it at 8.0. Makes it a little bit more. You can see a little bit more of a drop shadow there. We've talked about drop shadows in previous tutorials, so you can leave that there. But now let's look at George and Elaine. I'm going to color them differently. So for right now, I'm going to select all of them again. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to make my font size really big. And I'm going to select my selection tool and make my box here really big because I want to be able to see what I'm doing here. All right. So select your text tool and select all of these names, George and Elaine and Jim. Now let's go over here to fill. And you have fill type solid. There's a disclosure triangle here. Click it. You have several choices you can make. We're going to work with the top two, or we're going to talk about the top two. Linear gradient is a gradient that starts with one color at the top and slowly grades down to another selected color at the bottom. A radial gradient does exactly the same thing, except it starts at the center of the circle, the square, or the letter, or whatever, and changes colors as it goes out. That won't work really for what we're doing here, so we're going to go with the linear gradient. And when you choose linear gradient, you get these two boxes like this. The one on the left is your top color. The one on the right is your bottom color. So double click the white square here. You get the spectrum. I'm going to choose a nice bright red. Click there. Click OK. Oops, there's George. Now, here's my bottom color. Double click that. I'm going to slide this down to a blue and select a nice blue. That works. There, George's blue. Now, I can move these so that I can see exactly how much blue and how much red I get and where they blend. That's why I made this larger, so I can see it. When it's really small, I really can't see that well. So then I take my font size back to what it was. I thought it was 55, but let's say it's 25, right? Then with your selection tool, make your box down here work for you. There we go. And Elaine, George, and Jim, or whatever his name is, are right there, and then you can move them and put them wherever you want, right? And now they're a gradient. So you can do anything you want to with this. You can select from your styles down here. You can create your own. You can create by boxes or tilt lines. You can select colors. You can do gradients. You can do radial gradients, linear gradients, ghosting, anything you want to. Adjust your drop shadows, tilt, rotate, do anything you want to these. Use your artistic influences and just have fun with titling. Make sure you can mix fonts, as we talked about before. Make sure it's readable and you don't have a whole bunch of stuff, words in one box or one area, so that the audience can't read it fast enough and still see what you want them to see. So using color and things of that nature, you can direct the audience's eye to exactly what you want them to see, what you want them to know, and in what order you want them to read this. So that's another example of how we play with titles. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.